And now for a diverse view of life and the afterlife as we begin Understanding Spirit. And now, your host, Alan Cox.
Hello and welcome to Understanding Spirit on the Paramania radio network. It's really good to be back with you. It's getting darker and darker earlier here now. Just a couple of weeks to go before those clocks go back and we start on the winter trail again. But, it's worked out pretty well so far. We've had summer weather up until yesterday, and today it's gone cold. But I'm warm at heart because my special guest is Annie Conboy. Hello, Annie.
Hello, Alan, and it's lovely to be back.
Do you like that introduction? You warm my heart.
I'm giggling already.
Thank you for coming back as my guest. Thank you very much indeed. Always enjoyed, Annie.
Thank you.
Always enjoyed. Okay. Before we go on there, a couple of minutes, folks, I said to Annie, I haven't got a clue what we're going to be talking about. But we never do we?
No.
Right.
For
people who don't know you, right, Annie Conboy, psychic medium, a teacher of all spiritual. You do courses. You take people on, I suppose, adventures, really, don't you? What's an adventure for, and you do like seminars and that kind of thing. So, for the people who don't know you, what I'd always like to know is how people got into it. I know you've told me before, but go on, tell me again, because there's a lot of people out there who don't know you.
Yes, Alan. I think the one thing that I can say is that I've had an interesting journey into connecting with spirit. Not a typical journey by some people's standards. Lots of people start their journey when they're children and see and hear spirit. I was only a step away from being a child. I think I'd reached the age of, about 40.
Right. No, I can't believe that. I can't believe you're even 40.
Oh, thank you.
I know how to creep.
Yes. I will take every compliment that flows my way. But I did start to open up to spirit contact much later than is typical, as you know, in our world.
Well, actually, to be honest, we've got a lot of common there, haven't we, Annie? Because it was I was like 46 when things started to happen to me, so I totally understand that one. Yeah.
And I can't say that it was a sudden, blinding revelation, because actually, when I thought about it, they had been sending me little nudges and even bigger nudges for more than 12 years. So I wasn't really paying attention. And I wasn't paying attention because I very much believed in the rational scientific world. I've had a fascination all my life about what makes people tick, what consciousness and mind mean, and always interested in psychology. But this was outside of anything that I could rationalise. And in the end, after lots of interesting experiences and things that I could try to talk away, I actually ended up accepting I needed to know more, and took myself along to a spiritualist church to see what went on. And that's when it really kicked in for me.
Yeah.
I always say, as you know, Alan, that they got my bottom on a seat and thought,
Yes.
right, now we've got her. She's not getting away.
I think that's it, isn't it, though, Annie, really? When you stop and think back, you're not in control at all. You can kid yourself that you're doing it because you want to, and of course you want to, but it's like, as you say, once the good spirit has got you, they don't want to let you go, do they?
Well, they know that so many people need to be encouraged to listen for the still voice inside, and they know that so many people need the hope of a life to come. They know that people need healing and comfort, and it does make a huge difference. I wasn't a medium when my mum died. I didn't connect with spirit hardly at all at that time, and had, I think, a very different grieving journey than when my father died, because by then I was a working medium, and my guides just came in and immediately showed me that how he'd passed very peacefully, happily, into the arms of my mum, who was waiting for him. And that was all he'd ever wanted anyway.
Yes. It's funny, that is, you know. I mean, my dad passed away in 1992 when he was 68, and my mum's still alive. She's 89. They were the same, same age. And but at the time when it happened to my dad, I hadn't opened up then, and but yet, strangely enough, as you said, it's not recognising the signs. I never actually felt that he wasn't with me, and and going back before that, I've got a daughter in spirit, and I always felt that she was with me, and now I have my daughter and my dad with me. And I'll tell you what is really nice is that they come in the back of the car when we're going out, and Caroline, she plays with my hair. I'm driving and I can feel her moving my hair around. Yeah, I'll look through the mirror and there's nothing moving, but you can't see it moving, but I certainly feel it. So I get a lot of comfort from that.
And I love the fact that actually, for the past few years, my mum has worked with me. And whenever I do, but she particularly enjoys the work I do in the church services, and she always arranges for the same hymn to be sung, and she always arranges for whoever is introducing me to use the name she would use for me.
Really?
So it's kind of it's interesting that it was a different grieving journey, but there was also some sort of extra to that journey with my mum, from moving from being just my mum, and I don't mean just in a put down kind of way, but to actually experience her as a spirit and as a guide to help me and to continue to help me just as she had in life. That's been a fascinating experience, very rich and rewarding experience, because, you know, I was brought up on rationality and logic, and you don't expect those kind of things. And I just love it. I just love the way Spirit put themselves into our lives. Our loved ones make the effort to show us and tell us and give us a sense that they're absolutely there for us. It's so encouraging.
Yes. I mean, when I was growing up, or when I was younger, and going, be a teenager and that, I always used to be afraid of I was going to die one day. And that used to terrify me. I mean, it doesn't bother me now because, it's going to happen and that's it. And once you've actually realised that there's another dimension there, that you still exist, it makes it a lot easier to accept, that you're going to pass over one day. And I suppose that the biggest thing about passing over is that you want it to be as easy as possible. I think it's awful when people have to suffer, like with severe problems like cancer, and goes on for a long time and they're in a lot of pain and suffer. I think that is absolutely awful, but it's strange how different events happen in your life, isn't it? And I always remember when I was about 18, 19, I had this big dreaded fear of being 50 years old. And it was like something really big was going to happen when I was 50. Well, when I was 50, that was when I gave up my job and started to live my life the way I live it now. So I think I was being told all those years ago, and
yes,
so,
you gave everything up and went to the wild side.
Something like that. And 13 years later, they've still got me on it.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, it is interesting how things, when you look back and you think, oh, well, maybe that was really them giving me that nudge.
Yeah.
And I certainly would never, ever have expected to be publicly giving evidence that the spirit world exists and doing all the vast range of things that I seem to get thrown at me. I really would have thought it's madness, but you have to accept your own experience. You have to say, well, there's got to be something. If I've gone mad, it's quite a nice world to be mad in. It's a nice way to be mad because actually I've got all this wonderful comfort.
Yes. I feel you're like me in the sense that you don't really question it. Whatever gets thrown at you, it's like, well, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Am I right in saying that? You kind of, well, okay, this is your next challenge, so get on with it.
I'm not particularly, and I can hear my mother laughing in the background. I'm not particularly an easy person because if you say to me don't, then I'll assume that I should.
Right.
And if you say we really want you to do this, I might have a bit of a sulk, and I might say, oh, I don't really want to do that. So they are quite used to me digging my heels in. Or doing the I can do it my way bit, and they're very patient.
That's good.
What I've learned is that if I flow with what they send me, it is the right thing to do for whatever reason. So I've got to the stage where I may raise an eyebrow and give them one of my stern looks when they're throwing something new at me. But I usually just then get on with it. And it makes a very interesting and varied life because I never know from day to day what's going to be.
Yes. While we're talking, would you like to tell everybody how they can find you? Because there might be people out there who perhaps want to go and have a look at your website and have about you as we're talking. So would you? I think it could be, before we go any further, if you tell everybody your website.
It's easy to find me. I am www.Annie, and that's ANNIE, Conboy, and that's CONBOY conboy.net. You'll find links to other sites that I'm involved in through that, but you can also follow me on Twitter under Annie Conboy, follow me on Facebook, or friend me on Facebook. It's lovely to have friends. Friend me on Facebook under Annie Conboy.
Okay. So
you'll find me.
So it's www.annieconboy.net. Is that correct?
It is. Absolutely,
okay.
Yes.
And I'm just putting that up in the chat room right now.
Oh, thank you for that. You're using technology and I'm rubbish at technology.
I tell you, I've come into it kicking and screaming, I tell you. I remember some years ago, when I used to, I was self-employed, but I worked for some people. And it just becoming, in the 80s, just becoming, late 80s, no, early 90s, I'm losing track. Anyway, it was just the thing there to start having mobile phones. And, and I said, you'll never get me to have a mobile phone. Right. We got 4 in this house now.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
And don't you find it's fascinating how spirit use those electronic and technological things to get your attention and kind of say, hey, or even to kind of encourage you and say, oh, you need to be doing this, get one of them, and it's really interesting. I had a seance night last Friday. I love those, just bringing people together and sitting in circle and doing lots of different bits and pieces. Yeah. But I had treated myself to an iPad and we were videoing, and it was just really interesting what was going on in the process of videoing and taking pictures, because so much appears on digital technology that spirit actually worked really hard to produce.
Yes.
But yet we still find it hard to accept it's come from anything other than a malfunction of the equipment.
That's the part I don't understand, Annie, is that I understand malfunctions happen, of course they do, and not everything is going to be spirit, but it's almost like, although some people want spirit to be there, but they will do everything they can to disprove it. Now, I don't know, is that a healthy thing? Looking for the alternative? I suppose in some ways it can be, because once you've disproven everything, then the only answer can be that it's spirit. But some people are so ready to dismiss, as you say, electrical malfunctions, aren't they?
It is a difficult one, Alan, because I don't try to convert. I'm not here to convert. But what strikes me as a little bit perverse and I can't quite understand is that people say, right, well, okay, prove it. And I say, well, come in my seance room. Come to a seance. Come and see what happens. And then I'm told, well, it's malfunctions. We have mass hysteria. I like glass divination. It's a fab little thing to do. Somebody was pushing the glass, even when the information's correct. It's almost like we're too frightened to open our minds, even. And I find that's off.
I remember.
I've always questioned,
I'm going back a few years ago now, and we went actually down to help a young lady, and she was sharing a flat for our American listeners, apartment, and I think there was
about 7 of them, I think, altogether. A massive apartment in London, absolutely massive apartment. And they'd been playing around with the Ouija board. And anyway, lots of different things were starting to happen in the apartment. And they'd actually caught on camera, because I was seeing these orbs flying around the apartment. They actually captured them on camera. And this one particular girl, they seemed to be attracted to her, and they were holding her down at night time when she was in bed, and making it almost like she couldn't breathe and was frightened and what have you. Anyway, when Anne and I went down there, it's amazing that all the flatmates, they weren't there. There was just this girl. And we cleared the flat, but I'll tell you, it's a really weird thing happened while we were there. It was a calm, sunny day, and there was no wind about. And looked out of the window. It was about 3 floors up, and there was this almighty, almost like growling, whooshing wind down the street, and it was quite a narrow street, and there was people walking up and down that road. As you know, London's busy, and nobody was looking around because this noise was quite horrendous, and it was like it was only us that could hear it. And then as I cleared it, it just went, and then the problem stopped. But how can you explain something like that? You have to witness it, don't you? You have to witness it.
Yeah, I think my journey in working for Spirit has very much been based on my experience. And in the beginning, although I was open-minded, I was very sceptical and looking for explanation, and then found myself, having connection with Spirit. Found myself sitting in seances where tables were lifted, where the noise from the walls was phenomenal, and I now do trance and physical mediumship myself, and it's very much, you can't explain in any sufficient or easy detail what is a personal experience. What you can do is talk about it, but how you experience it is where you make the decision. Is this real? Is this happening? Is this not? And there are many, many things out there that we don't understand, because we're looking for a rational explanation rather than perhaps encourage that debate about, well, what just happened? That's a question I often ask. What just happened?
Yes.
I don't go running screaming. I'm usually standing there with my hands on my hips saying, well, what just happened?
Happened there, that's right. We talk about negative things, but there's a lot of good things that happen with spirit. There's a lot of funny things that happen as well. But we've got a guide. His name's Ken, right? And he's been with us quite a few years now, and he is a comic. He's really good. He's an excellent guide, but he's a comic. And one of his favourite things to do is to play with our microwave. And you can be sitting there, and it's a digital microwave, and you can be sitting in the lounge, and you hear from the kitchen, beep. So you go in there, and you put it back onto zero, and you'll wait until you get back in the living room and you sit down again, and then it'll go beep beep. And it was about 4 nights ago. This went on for about half an hour, and Anne said, "Oh, just leave him, let him get on with it." And then it just went beep beep beep, and he didn't do it again. It was like, "Oh, you've sussed me out."
Yeah.
So there can be fun things, as well as all the serious stuff. There can be fun things.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
sorry, go on. Yeah.
Oh, well,
sorry, Anne, go on.
I just find they often just want me to laugh. They just want to kind of get laughter going, and that I always love that they'll do the impossible just to say, "There you go, we can do it." I dropped an oven glove behind the oven one night. There's a bit of a gap, and I thought, "Oh, I'm going to have to pull that out in the morning. Don't you think you could sort that out for me?" And the next morning when I came down, I was getting a pan down off a shelf above the oven, and on top of it was perched the oven glove. And
Brilliant.
It just made me, I just laughed.
That is brilliant. Yeah.
It's like, well, all right, then you asked okay. You did ask nicely.
We've done it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's brilliant. Well, we're time for our first break, aren't we? So when we come back, perhaps we could talk a bit about these field trips that you go on, because I find those quite fascinating. And so we'll have a break. Please don't go anywhere, because we will be back.